I have given the permission, ma'am.
Okay, it is recording now.
Yeah, no, it's good. Okay, cool, cool.
Great, great. So,
So,
as we can start. Yeah.
yeah, okay, okay. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Um, Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Hello. Okay. So, Jai Bhim, a very warm and heartfelt welcome to all the participants, scholars, and attendees joining us today. It is truly inspiring to see this continued gathering of minds committed to dialogue, learning, and social transformation through ideas. As B.R. Ambedkar reminded us that human progress lies in the freedom of thought. Today's session reflects that very spirit. So, in this Ambedkar's Intellectual Summit 26, this continues to be a platform where we engage with ideas and that challenge inequalities and imagine for more just and human futures. Today's session is particularly thought-provoking as it brings together perspectives from economics, ethics, and gender, encouraging us to think the way we understand development and value. Now, moving on to today's speaker, we are honored to have with us Mrunal Dopte, lecturer and academic advisor at JBS and RC UK. Her work engages with alternative economic frameworks and critical perspectives, making today's discussion more unique and deeply relevant. She will be speaking on the insightful topic, which is Buddhist economics as an alternative framework and its convergence with feminist economies. This topic invites us to reflect on how economic system can reimagined through the lens of compassion, equity, sustainability, and gender justice. So here I welcome you, ma'am, and a quick recap for our session that this session after the talk there will be a Q&A session, and I kindly request all the participants to put their questions in the chat box, and please keep your cell phones muted so that there will be no disturbance throughout the session. So I welcome you, ma'am. So the forum is open to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jai Bhim, everyone. My name is Mrunal Madhuri Milind Dupte. Just to give you a little bit background as to why I have selected this topic and why I think I should be speaking on this topic. So since past 2 years, I'm researching on Buddhist economics at the University of Birmingham. And I think today's session is quite different from the other sessions which I have done in previous years, because that time when I was speaking on Buddhist economics, I was still studying Buddhist economics. I was still understanding the concept. I was still understanding what exactly Buddhist economics is. But this session is quite different because this is the first time I'm speaking on Buddhist economics when my research is done. So now I have conclusions, I have my findings, I have results as to what exactly Buddhist economics is. And this is my very first session after that. So, shall I continue? Uh, can the host make sure that participants are mute? Here is a- Sorry. Okay.
Yes, you can go ahead, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes. So just to start with, as to what exactly Buddhist economics is and why we need Buddhist economics is very important. And then how Buddhist economics will be linked with the feminist economics, which is taking a lot of memorandum currently in mainstream economics, is of another interest. So just to start with what exactly Buddhist economics is. So now if you just do a very random Google, you will see that Buddhist economics talks about sustainability. Buddhist economics talks about ethics. It talks about CSR. But then, if we think critically, this is all things are talked about in mainstream economics as well. Like in businesses, in a lot of big companies, people are talking about CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. People are talking about sustainability, that how we should be sustainable. People are talking about ethics, and we have reached to such an extent in mainstream economics and business regarding all these three parameters that now we have special committees within companies and within businesses which are talking about it. But then still, if we do studies, we will see that Buddhist economics is actually quite different, and it's very different from what businesses are preaching and what economics is preaching. So first of all, I come from an economics background. So I did my bachelor's in economics, I did diploma in economics. So when we study economics, we see that economics is not interdisciplinary subject. Economics talks about profit. Economics talks about how personal gain should be, how individual gain should be, but somewhere it does not talk about the psychology of people, how rational or irrational people can be. Entire economical model and entire economics model is and in fact all the formulas are based on assumptions. And one of the primary assumption of any economics or any economical model is that people are rational. And I think this is the very main critic which we can talk about, because when we say that people are rational, we understand that people behave or people do things with full consciousness, that they know what exactly they are doing, they know what kind of decisions they are taking for individual gain as well as for companies gain. But then when you actually see in terms of actuality or in terms of realism, humans are not rational. Humans are very irrational. We take decision. And if we are rational, we wouldn't have so much over consumption. We shouldn't be having consumerism. We shouldn't be having so much advertisements. But because humans are irrational, because humans do not think a lot, even if it is for personal gain or even if it is for ethical gain, all these things are somewhere putting us in an irrational area, in an irrational medium. And that's where Buddhist economics actually comes into picture, because Buddhist economics does not talk about assumptions. Buddhist economics does not assume that people are rational. Buddhist economics assume that people are irrational and people will take irrational decisions. And even with such a mindset, how can you make sure that an economical model is viable for me as an individual and for community is very important. Secondly, in economics, the main aspect of economics and in a lot of economical thought we have come across is about individual gains, is about individual prosperity. Buddhist economics does not talk about individualism at all. Buddhist economics talks about community. It talks about how community should be together. And that's where we see that Buddhist economics is an interdisciplinary subject, in a way that it has principles of economics. It talks about profit. Now, there are a lot of critics in Buddhist economics, which I'll come afterwards. But one of the main critic of Buddhist economics, which I want to touch now, is it says that Buddhist economics is very utopia. Like in a very good society or in a very idealistic society, Buddhist economics should be there. But if you talk about like 21st century or even in general, like this is not an idealistic society at all, Buddhist economics won't work. And these are some of the critics. But when you come across such critics, you have to understand that Buddhist economics is not for utopia, because Buddhist economics does not consider just one stream, that is economics, when it talks about. It considers psychology, it considers philosophy, it considers sociology. And when you amalgamate all these different disciplines which economics has left behind, economics only focuses on science, economics only focuses on money per se. But Buddhist economics does not cannot do that. And when you take all these particular streams into consideration, and when you make a model or when you make an idea out of it, it does not just suits an idealistic society, but it tries to make a society idealistic, which Buddhist economics try to do. Secondly, in earlier times, if we talk about, let's say, Aristotle, and after that, a lot of philosophers, even philosophers has said, and even economists at that time has said that there was philosophy first, and from philosophy, economics came. But then economics came to such an extent, or have been to such an extent, that they left philosophy behind. Like, the economists do not care about philosophy. However, I have to tell you, Amartya Sen, who has received Nobel Prize, as well as Martha Nussbaum, she is a very highly proclaimed philosopher. They both have written a particular paper. I do not know paper's name, but I think it is economics and philosophy, something related to that, where they have said that if you study economics without philosophy, economics then, or your economical idea won't be sustainable. And that's the reason that even today, very highly proclaimed economists are talking about economics. They are talking about how good their models are, but we know that all those models are failing in a certain way. As I said, that even today, businesses are talking about sustainability, businesses are talking about CSR, but it is all comes with an inner motto which businesses are having. And that's the reason we have greenwashing, where businesses are saying that they are doing a lot about environment, they are doing a lot about society, but we know they are actually not doing. It is just for marketing, it is just for people to so that people can invest more in those particular companies. And that's where Buddhist economics again comes, because Buddhist economics says that when you have to do something about sustainability and CSR, it has to be molded in your mind first, like chitta, we call it in Pali. So your mind is the main director. So if you have to construct or reconstruct your mind in such a way that you believe that all these factors are extremely important, and then you work on it. If all these factors are just for the face value as other companies are doing, then we see, of course, there is greenwashing, there is pinkwashing happening, and there is wokeism happening, which is taking in a very negative term in certain ways. Secondly, uh, Buddhist economics was introduced by, I think, I would say reintroduced by E.F. Schumacher, which again is quite a critical point, because E.F. Schumacher, he was a German economist who later went to United Nations, and he was posted by United Nations at Burma or Myanmar. So he was posted there, and he stayed there for 3 months. And he was posted in in an ideology that he should give Western economical thoughts and Western technology to them, to Burma. So he stayed there, and after 3 months he came back to UK, and he produced his first paper on Buddhist economics, where he said that Burma actually do not need any Western economics, because they have their own economical system which is working very nicely, which is working very perfectly, which is Buddhist economics. And in there, the main thing which he says, that why Buddha might have spoken about economics, because there is one of the noble truth of Buddha is right livelihood. So if he is speaking about right livelihood, in a way, he is actually talking about economics in certain ways. But again, maybe at that time, Schumacher have not studied a lot about Buddhism, so we do not have a lot of idea about what exactly Buddhism should be, or Buddhist economics should be. But after Schumacher, there have been quite few studies. I won't say a lot of studies. We need more studies in Buddhist economics. So there have been quite a few studies which have went a little step forward, which says that right livelihood is, of course, one of the aspect of economics, and one of the thing which Buddha might have said. But there are so many suttas where actually Buddha has spoken about economics which we do not know until now. For example, one of the I won't tell you a lot of suttas. There are quite few, but there are few suttas which I really think that, even when I was reading it, when I got to know, I then understood that okay, Buddha has actually spoken about Buddhist economics in a very good way. First one is Kutadanta Sutta. So in Kutadanta Sutta, so basically there was a president in one of the kingdom at that time, Kutadanta. So and there was, I think, recession at that time. So that president and king, they had a talk, and he said that, he went to a lot of priests, a lot of brahmins, as to how we can solve this recession, how we can solve this economical disparity in that particular kingdom. And a lot of priests suggested that, you must do havan, you must do some sacrifices, like the normal what we could say, like Brahmin solutions. But nothing happened. There was still recession, there was still economic instability, there was still a lot of issues. So then Kudadanto went to Buddha, and he asked, what should we do about this? And at that time, what Buddha gave solution, I think, is very advanced at that level. And we can say that, okay, Buddha, if Buddha can give such kind of solution, means he had so much knowledge about economics. He has so much knowledge about the entire economical idea. At that time, he said that kings should focus on accounts. They should focus on their taxation policies. They should make sure that people are not taxed a lot. And many such solutions which were all involved regarding economics and involved regarding accounting. There is this Sinhodaya Sutta, which again speaks about economics. There is Chakravarti Sutta, which speaks about how ethical economics should be. There are so many suttas after that. Then, when I started studying about Buddhist economics, I got to know that Buddhist economics might be quite a new term or quite a foreign term for us, but then a lot of countries are actually following Buddhist economics. For example, Thailand, they started self-sufficiency model. So I think it was King Rama the Ninth who started that when Thailand was facing quite economical issues. So he introduced this concept of self-sufficiency, where he said that there should be a circular economy within a small village frame. So you produce it, you sell it, you make sure that how the distribution should go. So you don't rely on outsiders, you don't rely on different countries or different exporters, or you don't have to import anything. You are sufficient enough to make sure that your economical cycle is working. Secondly, in Sri Lanka, we have Sarvodaya movement, where I think there are around 50 to 60 villages, or even more than that, where again this same circular economy is happening, where this same circular cycle is happening, where they are producing, they are even they are exporting in certain level, but they are minimizing their import, in a way that if something global instability happens, or if there is any issue globally, it shouldn't be impacting that particular region or that particular area. So they are sufficient, they are self-sufficient enough to do that. Even in Japan, there are a lot of companies, and there are a lot of small villages which are working in that self-sufficiency model. And all these things are basically what Buddhist economics is. Now, Buddhist economics does not say that there shouldn't be any globalization. Globalization at this time is important. But then how much reliance on exports we should do, or how much reliance on imports we should do, is something which Buddhist economist people, I would say now, as Buddhist economics is a very different subject than mainstream economics. So I would say that people who are studying Buddhist economics should be termed differently. We can say that Buddhist economist people are actually talking about that, actually understanding about it. Now, there are, of course, even today, there are some companies, there are so many companies who are doing, this mindfulness activity. In Google, they have this mindfulness seminars, mindfulness activities, which again comes from Buddhist economics. But there is another issue, because even in such companies where they are doing such mindful activity, it is for their individual satisfaction. It is for their individual peace. Buddhist economics do not talk about individuality. It talks about collectivism first. Even if you do mindfulness, even if you do meditation, you should focus on how collective good you are doing, or how collectively better you should be. So even today, a lot of companies who are actually following Buddhism, or certain aspects of Buddhism, have taken Buddhism in a very Western way, which exactly Buddhism is not about, or Buddhism shouldn't be about. Now, there are, as I said, there are certain critics on Buddhist economics. First is that Buddhist economics says that there shouldn't be any global trade, which then hampers the entire nation. So there is risk about it. Although all these things have taken in a very narrowed way. Buddhist economics do not say per se that. Of course, Buddhist economics speaks about self-sufficiency, but it does not speak about there shouldn't be global trade at all, because it is not possible. We need a competitive advantage over certain aspects, and for that we need global trade. Next is, because if there is no global trade, economists thinks that there will be economic stagnation. Now, if you talk about countries, for example, Thailand or Sri Lanka or Japan, which works or which communities works in Buddhist economics, you see that they have not faced economic stagnation. Rather, countries who are more exposed to global risk have faced issues. For example, this current war, we see that the oil prices have rose so much. There are so many different aspects that the prices are like there is an inflation because of it. It is because the overexposure. If we are sufficient enough, if we are self-sufficient enough, maybe in a certain way we will be relying on that, but not fully, which again Buddhist economics actually talks about. Secondly, um, mainstream economics, the entire idea as to why this particular country is progressing, we have certain parameters. One of the main parameter is GDP, that is gross domestic product, as to how much you are producing, how much your consumption is, what exactly is happening within and within the country border. We talk about that. Buddhist economics does not care about GDP, because Buddhist economics says that if you're only concerned about money, you're only focused on growth, then what happens to development? Is money the only factor which country should be focusing on? Maybe in a certain way we might think that if country has good money, if country is one of the, what we can say, like the fastest growing economy, people will be well off. But realistically, it doesn't happen. For example, in India, if we talk about India, India is said to be one of the fastest growing economy. We have a very good GDP. However, we do not have per capita income as compared to other nations. We still face inequality. We still have discrimination. We still have child marriages even today. So if economy is progressing in India, then why not people are progressing? And this is happening in a lot of countries. Then we see that somewhere there is an imbalance, which says that even if economy is increasing, if people are not prospering enough, then there is something wrong with your economic parameter. There is something wrong with the way you are calculating economic. So maybe GDP is not the only way we should be calculating our progress, because economy today, India, we have very good numbers. Like, we say like we are, I think, top 5 growing economy, but humans are not growing. People are not growing. We still have so many issues. So probably we should not rely on GDP anymore, because it is not benefiting us. Maybe we should rely on some different factors. For example, Bhutan has gross national happiness, which is again, and people think like if people are happy, your country is happy, your country is progressing. Maybe Western economics or Western world should be thinking about it, should be considering that particular factor. However, there is another critic to it, that GDP has certain parameters as to how you can calculate it. It has certain metrics. GNP doesn't have, because gross national happiness is in a way subjective as to what makes you happy. So how exactly will you be calculating that? Which is of course a questionable thing, which economists should talk about in near future, or Buddhist economist people should be researching on that, as to how exact parameters should be made, what exactly should be done. But it is 100% sure that GDP is not solving it, and there is a lacuna in this Western economics where Buddhist economics can fit, where Buddhist economics can provide an alternative measure. Secondly, another issue is if you are more focusing on collective welfare, if you are not focused, if you are saying that money doesn't have, money doesn't buy anything, money does not gives you happiness, then what about freedom of choice? For example, what about I need lot of money to buy lot of products? Because Buddhist economics also speaks against of consumerism. Buddhist economics speaks about middle path. So you are not consuming a lot, you are not giving out a lot, you are somewhere balancing your consumption and your expenditure. But what if I need to consume more? What if maybe that gives me happiness? Well, maybe I do not care about mindfulness. Maybe I need to be surrounded with lots of gold and diamond. So in a way, this personal choice is been attacked by Buddhist economics. However, if you actually follow Buddhism in a proper way, and follow Buddhism is not just reading about Buddhism, but you actually do meditation, vipassana, and you take all those teachings and actually work on it, you will see that such materialistic things actually do not take a lot of stand. And probably we are not thinking about it because we are not actually following Buddhism per se. And of course, we are not forcing anyone to follow Buddhism per se. Now, secondly, this is what exactly Buddhist economics is. And just to give you an overview as to how an alternative model of Buddhist economics should look like. Again, to just emphasize my points that Buddhist economics is not is to be not settled in an utopia or in a very idealistic society. Buddhist economics is meant for an irrational society which we are today, because it talks about all the aspects that makes us unhappy and which should actually be an alternative for an happiness, for a good community. One of the good thing or main aspect I should be talking about is whatever Buddha said at that time, that is 2,500 years ago. We are not, Buddhist economics is not taking everything per se, because maybe at that time situation was different. At that time there was no democracy. At that time there was no, I could say, like, so much trade. There was so not so much exposure. Buddhist economics is considering the certain ethical aspects of what Buddha is talking about, an economical idea or a community, or we can say an interconnected society, and how those ideas can be taken in 21st century, reframed it in a way that we should be adapted now, because it is impossible to actually use everything whatever he has said. And he has not said a lot about economics. He has said about society, he has said about people, and he has also given some economical ideas, but it is all over, it is all scattered. So we are just taking certain points. We are making sure to take those in this 21st century constraint, and then make it in a way that where people can actually use it, people can actually do it. And that's where my research actually came in picture. So the entire idea of my research was not to study what Buddhist economics is, but to understand how entrepreneurs can take Buddhist economics in their day-to-day life. And if some entrepreneurs are taking it, then what exactly are they seeing? Is there any progress in their behavior, or is, again, nothing is happening? Because there are so many critics on Buddhism or Buddhist economics. For example, one of the main critic of Buddhist economics is given by Max Weber, who is one of the very famous sociologists. He says that Buddhist economics is, or Buddhism, sorry, not Buddhist economics, Buddhism is very a political religion. That if you want to follow Buddhism, or if you see any Buddhist activity, you have to consider that there is a monk who has a bowl, and he is just for. I think my voice is echoing. Can you please mute? Okay, thank you. Okay, so according to Max Weber, that Buddhism is very apolitical. It is something if people are Buddhist, then you have to be very different from the society. You have to just take a ball, and then probably you just have to roam around, and you have to be poor for that. So poor religion, or religion of poor people, is Buddhism according to him. But then again, it is not at all true, because if it was true, then there are so many kings during Buddha and after Buddha who has actually adopted Buddhism, and who has also worked in Buddhist economical way in certain aspect. And not just kings. Now here where my feminism comes into picture, where feminist economics come into picture. So when I was researching about Buddhist economics, I was not basically focused on feminist economics, but the more I started reading about Buddhism and Buddhist economics and how this Buddhist economical ideas is, that's when I got to know that although we see that feminist economics is very new or it's very foreign, it is not exactly. Feminist economics is not new. Feminist economics is not foreign. Feminist economics is something which Buddhism actually talks about, which Buddhist economics is actually talking about. It's just that we have gotten this a lot later. For example, their Schumacher, when he wrote about Buddhist economics, he wrote about women's role as well. And he spoke about love economy. So love economy at that time was very foreign. And because at that time people were not considering love economy, they just rejected Buddhist economics altogether. And people in the sense House of Lords, like all people who were actually making policies, thought that Buddhist economics is another some religious ideas, and it doesn't have to do anything with society. So, what exactly is love economy? So, love economy is basically what women are supposed or women are told to do in an economical setting, which goes underpaid. For example, if I am working, let's say 9 to 5, like proper, like my partner, I'm getting paid for it. But when I come home, I have to do some household work. Those household work are underpaid, undervalued. This is where love economy comes. Economists have given the term as love economy, that women are doing it out of love, which now we have critics on it as to why only women should be loving a lot. Why not men can love? Or why there has to be termed as love economy to do some underpaid and undervalued work. And if you focus on love economy, you'll see that if we target love economy somewhere around, capitalism will be shaken. So Buddhist economics is again giving an alternative measure to capitalism. It's I would say like a counter alternative to capitalism, because for example, if I am working outside, I'm also working at my home, I'm not getting paid for it. But what if I start asking for money to do my household work as well? So if I start asking money for my household work, because if I'm not working, I'm taking maid to do that. So ultimately, I have to give money to someone. But what if I take money? So now, if I take money, my partner will have to ask for more money from his from his employer. Now, when everyone start asking for more money from their employer, somewhere employers will have the holdings which employers have of more money will now be segregated between employees, because now employees will asking for more money to give their wives or their partners or their associates for all those things. So love economy is a very dangerous concept, because you say that love economy is out of love, you should do that, but love economy is actually giving burden on females, especially women. It is giving burden of responsibility. I'll give you some statistics. So according to the labor report recently, I think in 2023 or 24, it is said that women work 5 hours more than men every day. And it is all not the office work. Even if you are working office extra hours, you are getting paid for it. But 5 hours extra is the household work which they have to do. And even if you have maids today, even if you are capable of actually giving salary, but what exactly should be cooking, if maid has come or not, if everything is clean, this entire this entire household burden, if everything is happening properly, lies on women, which again is hampering their own economical activity, their more economical stand, which is something which Buddhist economics is saying. Buddhist economics is saying that you value, in the sense monetary value, love economical concept as well, because women has to be participants in this economical procedure, in this economical activities. Now, when E.F. Schumacher talked about women, he said that if women are actually working in industry, then somewhere country is failing. Now, if you talk about now, like in a feminist perspective, I would be like, why would he say that? Why can't women work in industry? But when I research more on it, I get to know that why exactly he might have said about it. Because at that time, women were working at home, and they were also working in factories because industrial revolution was happening. And after War, when a lot of men died, women actually took positions and started working for economical stability. So if women are working in factories and women are also working in household, then somewhere they are not able to take care of their health. They are not able to take care of the entire household chores as well. So somewhere country is failing for not providing enough for women. Now, if you talk about Buddhism, Buddha did not speak about women empowerment, which we talk now. Like women empowerment for us is going to work, or having a boardroom decision, having the ability to actually decide something. Women empowerment for Buddhist economics, and for me as well, is not about just going to what we could say, like just going to offices. That is empowerment, of course, but that is an external empowerment. Internal empowerment is when I get the agency to actually speak about monetary aspect in my house. I get to speak about decisions in my house. That as to I do not go in kitchen when or when male are actually deciding something. When I come out of kitchen and when I say that how the economics should be, how this policy should, how household economics should be, or how much money we should spend, how much money we should save. When I get to speak that, that is when empowerment is. And this is what Buddha actually said that. In one of the suttas, it is said that when some I think when he was talking about how women and male partnership should be um, in um, in household, he actually told that men should give all the household expenses and everything to women, and women should now decide how those expenses should be done, how the household expenditure should be done. Now, I do not expect Buddha to be talking about women going out and working. It was not back then. There was no culture for it. Maybe if Buddha was today, he would have given some different what updesh, or some different preachings. But even at that time, Buddha's ideas were very radical for those eras as well, where he said that women should have monetary agency to decide where money should be kept, where money should be how money should be divided, how expenses should be divided. And following those perspectives on how women's stand was in Buddhism, we see that after that lots of queens came who started their entire empire and who ran their entire empire in a very good way. One of the most prominent example which I have to give you is Dowager Link. She was in China, and I think her era or her particular century started. Her particular uh, um, her particular empire started after Ashokan, because she actually made some statues of Ashokan pillar at that time in China. So after her sons and after her husband death, she was the one who actually uh, ran China, ran the entire thing. She made sure that accounts are taken care of. She made sure that women are actually doing accounting work. Nuns are taken care of, that is female monks. Nuns are being taken care of. How the entire economical idea should be. And in some of the scriptures or in some of the books, it is also written that entire position of women got benefited because Buddhism came in those countries, because Buddhism ideas came. So when Buddhism ideas went to different countries, women position automatically was better off. Women position increased. Which again also can be thought about, that maybe Buddha has actually spoken a lot about feminism in Buddhism. Now, I won't say that Tripitaka has given all the right account. I do not agree with Tripitaka in multiple ways. I feel that Tripitaka has a lot of patriarchy and misogynistic things in it, because because it was written a lot after Buddha. Secondly, it was written by monks, that is male monks. Female involvement was not there. But Theravada has, of course, female involvement, but it does not speak about positioning, or it does not speak about economic as such. Secondly, I was recently reading certain books, and I got to know that actually women are the pioneer to keep Buddhism alive. In the sense, women are the one who actually made sure that monasteries are running efficiently. For example, uh, during my study, I got to know that in Burma, there is basically competition between women, and women are in an entrepreneur position. So because my study was about entrepreneurship, I have to understand how the gender dynamics in entrepreneurship works. So I got to know that so my study was in 4 countries: uh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Cambodia. So this four countries results I have. So now, first of all, in lot of countries, nearly 90% or more than 90% small businesses are run by women. But Burma is, I think, a very distinct, I would say, case study. Because in Burma, I got to know that women are fighting for more profit among each other. And, and they are fighting for that only because if you get more profit in the way that you are actually donating more. So more profit you get, more donation you do to monasteries. So in a way, a lot of donations are done by women, of course. However, high percentage of fights of profit is done not for individual gain or for individual profit. It is for how much you will give dana to monasteries, which I feel is a very distinct and very interesting case study. Secondly, when I did my interviews and surveys in Thailand, Cambodia, and even in Sri Lanka, I got to know that women are more donors to this monastics, to the monasteries. Especially women involvement in monastics is much higher, which again is quite, I think, is quite similar in Indian context as well. Secondly, in a recent study done by Matthew Milligan in 2019, he had mentioned that when Sanchi Stupa was made, and when nearby stupas or when nearby monasteries were made, women were the highest donors even back then. Now, monastic is basically an epicenter. Monasteries are meant to be an epicenter for more ideological flourishing, for more Buddhist flourishing. And now women are doing that in a way that women are the ones who are making sure that Buddhism is going from places to places and Buddhism is staying alive. There are also studies which says that there was a time when monks or when this male monastic communities did not have fund for their day-to-day operations, and female monastic communities were actually giving money to male monks. So this is, I think, very interesting factor, and this is something which I feel that feminist economics is not new, or feminist economics doesn't have to be a very different stream, because mainstream economics does not consider feminist economics, to be very honest. Mainstream economics is very narrow. Mainstream economics is very, I could say, in a very conservative way. Buddhist economics is not that. Buddhist economics is actually focusing on feminism as well. It focuses on women empowerment. It focuses on women participation in an economy, in an community. So after now, I just touched on as to what my findings are. So now my study was divided into 2 parts. First of all is what exactly monasteries are doing for betterment of economics in a community, in a particular area, in a particular country. Secondly, what exactly entrepreneurs are doing. And and my study was focused on Buddhist entrepreneurs only. So I purposefully only chose Buddhist entrepreneurs. So when I talk about role of monastics, so role of monasteries is extremely important in making sure that economic activities of that area is well off. First of all, monasteries is not a religious institution in Buddhism anymore. Monastery is a educational institution. And educational institution also considers the education institutions also considers how economical activity should be. So first of all, male monks and female monks as well, female nuns as well, whenever they are not they are not the ones who have only studied Buddhism. I have done I think at least 20 interviews, and all 20 monks and nuns are highly educated professions. Some were CTOs, like chief technical officers of companies who later converted into Buddhism. Some were lawyers or professors at multiple universities. I have also come across some high senior government officers. Now, when those people actually give preachings to common people, they do not just rely on Buddhist texts while giving preachings. They actually rely on their own ideas, their own educational things, and then they include that with Buddhism and teach to common people, which I think is very important in Buddhist society, which those monastic communities like monks and nuns are doing that. Secondly, role of nuns is extremely important. In Buddhism, there is no hierarchy when it comes to general. There is an hierarchy in monastics. I have not touched upon that, and I won't be touching upon that in this. But actually, nuns are very highly qualified in Buddhist society. So they also do a lot of preachings. They actually also tell about how economical activities should be, and they do not just give a very, I mean, the main idea of their teaching is not just to tell them how economic activities should be, but they actually give an example how they can do that, which is extremely important. A lot of lay people, common people, they call monks and nuns to actually tell them if there are some. I have also come across a lot of case studies where when people are facing downfall in their businesses, they have actually gone to monks and nuns for some of their for some recommendation for some solutions, and those monks and nuns have not given them a very idealistic scenario recommendation. They have actually used economical activities and practical examples to tell them how they can make sure that their business is not going downward, which is extremely important. Second is now my final solution. After this, I'll just stop it. So last is entrepreneurship. So now what exactly Buddhist entrepreneurs are doing? Are they adopting to Buddhist ideas, Buddhist principles? How they are utilizing those for betterment? What exactly are they doing it? Now my questions did not actually ask them if they are following, if they are actually, using Buddhism, or if they are using Buddhist ideas or not, because in a way we know that we will be getting a biased answers. So my questions were framed in such a way where it was more of a situational based question, where I was asking them some situations, and with their information I got to know what exactly are they thinking of. So again, for this entrepreneurship also, I did case studies, I did interviews of 4 countries, which is India, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Cambodia. And I think a gender ratio, I did divide as much as I could in proportion way. And I got to know that there is basically a spectrum of Buddhism, and there is basically spectrum of Buddhist people. And according to spectrum, we could actually see that how they are adopting and what exactly their ideologies is. So first comes the first layer, where they are born Buddhist, and even in their families, they actually work on Buddhism, but they call themselves atheist. So they do not want to assign or link themselves with Buddhism. I have also come across few entrepreneurs who said that if there is some sermon happening, or if there is a monk and nun coming in their household, they do not like to sit, or they do not want to listen to that, because they identify themselves as atheist. Second spectrum of Buddhist people are who have Buddhism in their places, who call themselves Buddhists, but they do not read about Buddhism. They do not actually study a lot about Buddhism. They do listen to Buddhism if some preachings are happening. And then we have the final set of Buddhist people who actually study Buddhism, who read about Buddhism, and who have also gone to Vipassana. Now, Vipassana was also one of the questions which I asked. And now, if you see this level, there the way of expression and what exactly solutions they have given, you can see what kind of Buddhism they are following. Atheists have a very materialistic mindset. Like for example, they are actually saying that they need individual gains. They are talking about profit. When I ask, like, if you want to divide your profit between people, because a lot of Buddhist people are actually doing that, Buddhist entrepreneurs are actually doing that, according to them, they do not want to, because they feel that they are the business owners and they have been business owner only for them to get rich. So if they are not getting rich, then the entire purpose of being business owners is nullified. Second type of people are quite cautious one, in a way that they want to actually do something good. They think that they should be actually doing something for community, and they are doing it in a way that they are actually talking about giving danas to monastic communities as a part of their own beneficial way. They are actually making sure that if they have any issues, they consult someone. They also consult to some religious head. Now, as I said, that religious head is not someone who has only studied Buddhism. They have studied lots of different education. They have highly educated people. So, in a way, they do accept their understanding, but of course, they are quite, in a way that even if they do not follow entirely correctly, they might do some things which are against Buddhism, but they try to be as Buddhist as they could. And then there are certain aspects of people which have actually gotten, and there are few male counterparts in those spectrum, but lot of female who actually talks about community, and which is very interesting, because when I started taking their interviews, I did not tell them that I am doing research on Buddhist economics. I did not do that because I thought that I'll get some biased answers. But as their solutions came and as their opinions came, I got to know that, okay, these people are actually following Buddhism and how they attend Vipassana. They actually study about Buddhism, and not just about, not Tripitaka, but how, what Buddhist philosophies are, what Buddhist metaphysics are, what actually people are researching about Buddhism, what Amartya Sen is saying about Buddhism. And when you talk with those people about businesses, they have a very different ideology, where they think that even if they are earning, let's say, 2 lakhs per month for their individual, which is sufficient for them to do, how do their monthly operation, they do not need extra money for that. They think that whatever they have should be sufficient enough, but they want to expand their business for more and more employment should come, which I feel has somewhere linked with the preachings you get or the ideological aspects you get. So, just to sum up now, my next research is, I think, a next step to it, which focuses on Dalit Buddhist movement in special regards to entrepreneurship. Because as I received some research from entrepreneurship and what I have received the spectrum, I actually want to understand if something has happened in this Dalit diaspora in India, and if Buddhism or if conversion has actually helped entrepreneurs to adapt Buddhism and to actually understand how Buddhist teaching should go like. And I'm in a very, I think, in a very baby face right now in this next research. But this is my entire study I tried to do. So the study is very long. There are so many different variations to it, some critics to it, a lot of different suttas, lots of different ideological aspects to it, a lot of different, I think, solutions as well, which I tried to propose it. But I think given the time constraint and of course respecting the time of host and the intellectual summit who has invited me, I tried my level best to tell you what exactly it is, from the historical origins to how these new ideologies are coming, what can be the critics of it, as well as what exactly the findings are. Now the next step is to basically understand, basically focus on small businesses and how they can do that. Maybe in some different study I'll try to do it, to take some sample businesses and to have like one business actually follow Buddhist ideas and see how they are progressing, and other businesses how they are generally doing it, just to see that if actually Buddhist economics has a premise in such settings. But yeah, till now this is something which I have done. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I'll start. I'm very excited about your research. I wonder when your book is going to be out so I can start reading them. The reason is because I've been teaching Buddhist economics in my classroom because I'm a Buddhist studies scholar, but I like primary materials. So far, my teaching is focused more on adapting things like donut economics, degrowth theory, but combining them with, the classic shoemaker kind of Buddhist economics, right? That's published in the 1970s. And then there's another book published, I think in 2000 something on Buddhist economics. It's just like so few on the ground kind of examples of showing how to work. But my question actually, since I'm mostly trained in the Chinese history part of it, I wonder, have you come across like what I see in the Chinese kind of a Buddhist economics, monastery economics, in the sense that is mostly I see the big monastery, the collusion with the kind of existing power, the monastic rulers, right, dynastic rulers, and then literates, typically in the Yuan dynasty, for example, they will use the Buddhist concept of karma to justify this debt to privilege, right, those who lending money, and then to pressure the debtors, you have to pay your debt. So some part of me just saying something's deeply wrong, but then most those kind of so-called entrepreneurs in Yuan China, and I can give you more examples, honestly, because you mentioned Wu Zetian, right? Her economics is better than other emperors, maybe, but really not that much better. Also, there's a recent book by Stephanie Balkville on the woman who ruled China, and then she touched upon how earlier, right, examples of women rulers using Buddhism, promoting certain kind of Buddhist economics, but for the dynastic rulers. So what I see actually, at least documented mostly, is the collusion of the Sangha with the political power for the domination of the extraction of resources. So how would today's entrepreneurs deal with that? Though also, or maybe they were also part of the collusion.
Yeah, so my study was mainly in Theravada Buddhism, and that's why I have specifically chosen Theravada nations. But regarding the karma thing, I think one of my question was regarding that, if they believe in karma or not. And it is something which has a very different ideas and understandings, because a lot of entrepreneurs, because not having a lot of information as to what exactly Buddhism has said, or maybe not actually understanding, or even not taking a lot from monastics, they have very different understandings in lots of aspects. First is karma. And second also is this, in Buddhism, we have this concept as to this I'm this where you just leave certain aspects, in the sense you do not focus a lot, where you say that, oh, you don't need a lot of money, you don't need a lot of things, you don't need a lot of profit, and they have taken in a very negative way, in a way that now a lot of entrepreneurs do not want to work a lot, because they feel like in Buddhism you say that you don't have to work a lot, you just have to do something bare minimum and you proceed with it. But this is a very misconception which people have, and there are so many misconceptions in Buddhist text, because everyone or every country has interpreted Buddhism in their own way, and now they started following Buddhism in their own way. I specifically have to touch down on some of the Buddhist monks which I have taken interviews in India, which I feel is somewhere very much aligned with this day-to-day ideas and day-to-day issues, where they have actually said that karma is in lots of text, and even in Buddhist monks and nuns have said that karma is something which comes from your past life, and you have to use it, you have to adapt to it, and that's when, like, if you do something good, next life will be something better. So it is like a continuation cycle. Whereas not Indian Theravada Buddhist monks or nuns do not think about that. According to them, karma is not something which you take in their next life. It is like if you do something wrong, your next generation will be impacted. In a way, now people will be calling them something, so that's what you have to consider. Secondly, when I asked them, like, a lot of entrepreneurs in Thailand says that, oh, they do not want, a lot of profit, or they do not want to think about a lot of money, because Buddha has said that, do sufficient enough. If you get like 30 rupees or $30 a day, it is enough for you. But this is not something actually what Buddha has said. There, people have interpreted Buddhism in a very different ways. So if you talk about entrepreneurs right now, we actually have to talk about how this fusion of ideas should work. Now, in management, we have this recent theory or recent idea of social fusion or ideological fusion, that how different ideological fusion should be done to make a good idea or good understanding. I think this is ideological fusion is important, that you are not neglecting Western economics or capitalism entirely, and you are not taking Buddhist economics or Buddhism entirely. You are taking certain aspects of it in a way, and you are molding it in a way which is actually benefiting people, which is actually benefiting entrepreneurs and society per se. So I think this new ideas of this post-growth theory which we talk about, or even this ideological fusion, is very important in, I think, day-to-day operations in Buddhist entrepreneurship and Buddhist businesses.
Thank you. I'm just going to drop my email in the chat box, so get in touch. I have so many more questions, but I don't want to dominate the conversation.
So if anybody has any questions, they can unmute themselves.
Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Mrunal. So nice narration. This is Dr. Anjaneyulu from Ministry Official Government of India. So it's a very good illustration. So we are welcome to you, and we wish you all the best. You are welcome to join with us. So now, if you want any records from the Government of India regarding economic survey, like all this, we will help you.
Thank
So
you.
I wish you good luck. Nice
Thank you.
narration.
Thank you.
Okay.
Participants, do you have some queries or questions or anything about the talk? You can just unmute yourself.
It looks like no one else is asking questions, so I'm just gonna take up more time. I actually have a friend, Susan Karakash. I'm gonna drop the article link here. She's an anthropologist. She actually studied Thai Buddhism, but what some of the things she noticed is actually, for example, the talisman tattooed burger. And then the use of amulets. So I wonder, I don't know, I don't want to, as a scholar, I don't want to say those are not authentic Buddhists, because those entrepreneurs, right, they really see themselves as practitioners. But then there's also this whole thing of commercialization of Buddhism. And I don't think Thailand is the only one. I'm in China, like it's so popular about commercialization, right? Because, for example, I'm a practicing Buddhist. My brother was not, but my nephew is gonna go take the college entrance exam. If you don't know, it's just like examination hell. Um, so what he did is actually he went to Mount Wutai, praying to Manju Sri Bodhisattva, and for I don't know, blessings, so my nephew can get into a good college. But on the other hand, right, those sites you also see like people selling all kinds of paraphernalias like amulets, special bracelets. So whenever I think about Buddhist economics, I always part of me say like you cannot commercialize Buddhism, but then on the other hand, you also have Buddhist texts say that if you, especially tantric Buddhist texts, right? If you do this and this, and you will get like all this kind of worldly riches. So that for me feels like a Buddhist prosperity theology. I just wonder what you think about the whole phenomenon. And that's for me, right? It's definitely the majority of what Chinese and Tantric Buddhism has been doing. It's not really very, I mean, it's just like very neoliberal capitalism with the Buddhist garments. I just want to see your insight on this because I'm getting
So,
hopeless.
yeah, so I think I have read about this Sherab Tender who spoke about Buddhist economics in Tantric Buddhism, where he actually has spoken about, like, there are certain aspects which are actually nice, the way what he has said. But in certain ways, he has said that, you should actually pray to Tara so that you get good wealth, you get good money, which is, yeah, uh, practically, like, yeah, not suitable, even for me. But then I think we have to give them a benefit of the doubt in a way that Tantric Buddhism has always been linked with, I think, this unearthly activities. So they have constructed their economical ideologies just like how Buddhism they are practicing. And of course there is this aspect of consumerism, there is this aspect of what you have said, but this is what the spectrum of Buddhism is, in a way that those people are identifying themselves as Buddhist, but are they actually following Buddhism? Are they actually understanding what Buddhism is, which is the questionable aspect. In India, or in Nagpur and Maharashtra region where I stay, there are a lot of Buddhist people, and this is highly dominated city, I would say, of Buddhist. They call themselves as Buddhists, but you see that they are doing everything they can do anything for profit maximization. So they are namesake Buddhist. They are not actually, in the final spectrum of Buddhism, where you actually change your ideology, where you actually change your business practices and businesses. You can only be on the final aspect of, or the final spectrum as an entrepreneur of Buddhism, when you actually follow those ideas, which comes from not just religious texts, which a lot of, even today, a lot of monks and nuns relies on that. They rely on Tripitaka in such a way that they do not consider what you could say, like, feminist perspective or feminist economics as such. Even in my interviews, I have heard nuns saying that they are okay to be treated as a passive citizen in monastic, and monks to be treated as an active, which has never been told by Buddhism, but they are, or Buddha, but they are using it because how this after developments have happened in those particular aspects. So regarding this Thai this Thai society, if we talk about, or Thai businesses and entrepreneurs we talk about, of course, there are people doing that in a lot of countries and a lot of regions they are doing that. But they comes in, this middle spectrum where they want to balance it out, but they actually want also money, where they are quite confused, where they do not know what exactly they need. And this is the middle spectrum. Final spectrum people are something which actually follows Buddhism, which read Buddhism, where they do Vipassana, where they understand the teachings and preachings, and then they adapt Buddhist economics in a proper way, and they actually get profit as well. So it is not just about it is not just about following a religion or following an economics based in a religious test. It is also to ensure that you are getting money out of it, you are getting profit out of it, but it is not so much that where you are just using it. It is enough for you to make your day-to-day operations well, and enough for the society as well.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate your insight. But part of me also have this question, because we know right now the global economy is very exploitative, extractive, and we call it racial capitalism. We call it, I mean, it's just economics, kind of a colonialism is ongoing. So I wonder, if we don't, it's more about the power structure, right? Because in the US, pretty much the corporate law says you are only responsible to your shareholders. If you are workers, employees, producers, no, we don't care about you. We only care about you. By legal institutionalized, right? It's legally protected exploitation, exclusion of the workers and stuff, only care for profit. So I wonder, given this kind of very entrenched state power, and it's not just state power, US is pretty much on top of the food chain of the global exploitation, right? So what are the ways for people being exploited in this very extractive system? How do they make sure, number one, they have to survive, right? But number two, how do they make sure they don't collude, right? They don't just like kiss up. How do we clear kind of monkey wrenching some of the material resources actually for people who need them, right? So I just wonder, I mean, there are lots of things the Buddha said, I think is amazing in principle, but I think the devil is in the details, right? How do we actually live that, and also make sure like the communities of care that we build, or the beloved communities we build, won't be just totally wiped out by the extractive economy and through the state violence.
I think it's a very good point. But in a way, now we have to stop thinking about what Western society is doing. Western society is exploitive. It is not serving anything good right now. And back then, even people were actually critiquing on Buddhist economics in a way that Buddhist economics comes from an Eastern society. And according to Max Weber, to be honest, according to him, Eastern society has not given anything good in global scenario. According to him, it is always the Western economics who has make sure that the Earth is progressing, which is entirely unfactual. I don't rely on it. I think we should stop expecting anything from US or anything from developed nation. I think the major epitome of economics will come from an Eastern society. It will come from a Buddhist society. It will come from this South Asian nations who actually have the power, and this is where our entire I think ideas should focus on, as to how we ensure that those nations and their businesses are doing it. My focus was not on the national level. It was rather a focus. I was rather focused on small entrepreneurship and small businesses, because in those nations, in Theravada nation per se, small entrepreneurs are consisting like a lot of I think a lot of I could say market capitalization and market ideas has been done by the small entrepreneurship, where 90 or more than 90% of the businesses are handled by small chains. So if you try to transform those small chains, if you try to transform the small businesses, it will somewhere reflect in the policies. It will somewhere reflect in their national domains, which has not been done now. Because even today, we are more focused on what these big companies are doing, and they are taking, a lot of like market capitalism has been done by that. So removing this market capitalism, let's focus on now market penetration, which is done by the small businesses. So we transform the small businesses first. We understand how the small businesses are doing, and then from downwards we go to upwards. And I think we should now forget about US and UK. They are of no good right now in an economical system. They have a lot of money. They still have a lot of holding. But for transformation, I think I am personally looking at Eastern world for transformations in economics right now. Yes, actually, there is Muslim economics. Like I think they call it like Islamic finances. A lot of countries actually are following Islamic finance, like Sharia laws, and they are doing even I think in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, a lot of banks are actually doing that. And there, I am not sure if there is an Hindu economics. There is Jain economics. There is Jainism in certain ways. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Jeffrey.
Jabin, am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am, I am Shekhar Bhagat. I am calling from Thane, India.
Mm-hmm.
My question is this: how strong this Buddhist economics in India? I mean, how powerful it is, which can influence the government of India and the policies by. See, there are other communities like Jain and all, even Parsis. Their economies are so healthy, so strong that if something uh, happens to this capitalist, the entire country's economics gets affected due to that. So, in that context, how this Buddhist economics um is having a place?
So basically, Buddhist economics is not about like just religion following economics principle. It is about like how entire nation or entire businesses can follow Buddhist ideas. Now, as you said that how in India it can be adapted or how in India it can be used. Now, this is a very questionable thing because first of all, in this entire Buddhist economics and Buddhist economical thing, Buddhism, the word Buddhism comes, which is like religion. And this is one of the critics of Buddhist economics, that because you are, even if you are giving very good ideas, but because you have said Buddhism in it, a lot of people will not follow it. A lot of people or a lot of business and even companies or countries will not do it. So one of the critics is that. Now, second is, if in a very in a very good scenario, if let's say countries started doing it, we won't be facing a lot of issues which we are seeing now. Like for example, there is this war happening in Iran and in US, and all those this entire issue with this oil and this everything, we are getting impacted because of it. But what if we are sufficient enough in certain ways that we are actually doing our own production in in some streamline. So self-sufficiency, I think, will be very beneficial for India. Secondly, in Indian constraint, we are relying so much on growth and so much on GDP that we are not focusing on people's growth. We are not focusing on human development. So Buddhist economics will be a counter narrative to that capitalism, where even today we are talking about money as the main and highest epitome. We will maybe if Buddhist economics comes, we will maybe speaking about human development as to what can make people sufficient enough or what can make people happy enough, and how we can make sure that more jobs are created, how we can make sure that humans are being prospered. So I think this main issue which India is facing will be crossed or will be focused by Buddhist economics, which is, I think, one of the main reason as to why people of India is unable to progress in economical frontier.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, my concern is that is the environment is conducive in India for this Buddhist economics?
Actually, it is in a way that there are some small businesses who are actually using Buddhist principles to do their, to run their companies, to run their businesses, and they are actually getting profit. They are actually getting good results. So there is a scope to it. Only the thing is, you have to follow Buddhism properly to actually understand it and to actually use benefited from it. I won't be speaking about entire nation per se, because macro that particular research on national economy was not my topic. I was more focused on micro aspects of it.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Nice speaking to you, and it was
Thank
a.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
मॅडम
Yes, hi.
हाय मॅडम माझा प्रश्न हा होता की महाराष्ट्रातील बुद्धिस्ट पीपल आहेत
हा.
तर तर ते आपण जेव्हा तुलना करतो इतर देश तुम्ही चार देशाचा रिसर्च केलं तर तुमचा टॉपिक असेल
तुमचा आवाज नाही येतोय मला बरोबर.
एक मिनिट
Hello. Hello. Mm. Hello. So for participants, thank you everyone for joining. We are running out of time, so it's really grateful to have you, ma'am, in the talk on the summit, right summit. Uh, so if at all anybody has some queries, you can get in touch with ma'am on her email. Ma'am, can you please post your email in the chat box?
Yes,
Because I can see some messages in the chat, so you can address them directly on the email. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So formally, we have come to the end of our talk, where ma'am has told us a lot of things about the collective idea of Buddhist economies and some more insightful and new things. Also, we came to know today various new aspects which are aligned to Buddhist economies, especially the alternatives which she has adopted, and about the feminist economies also. Uh, Also, the ma'am has focused on, and as her study was focused on the four countries, we can we can like discuss more on the Indian scenario too. Can we relate it to the Indians also, that we can have a discussion with her in our later session. So it was really an insightful session, ma'am. It was very enriching for all of us. Thank you so much, and hope to see you. Hope to have more discussions on this topic. Thank you so much. So it's a formal conclusion from our side. Thank you all the participants for joining us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.